Hello everyone, I cordially welcome you all to another video from the React tutorial series, and in this video we are going to learn what is useMemo hook in React. So without any delay, let's get started. So let's discuss what is useMemo hook in React. The useMemo hook comes into picture when we think of optimizing our React applications. This hook allows us to cache the result of some expensive calculation and return the same cache result in successive re-renders until the dependencies change. In short, the useMemo hook returns a memoized value. If you are not sure what memoization is, it is basically an optimization technique which boosts execution of programs by caching the results of heavy time-consuming function calls and returning the cached result when similar input is encountered. That is, similar argument is passed. The expensive functions wrapped with useMemo hook only runs when the dependencies change. We must always invoke the useMemo hook at the top level of our component. The syntax for writing useMemo hook is as follows. useMemo, then within a pair of parentheses we have the calculate value, that is the function, and the dependencies. Okay. It is to be noted here the calculate value is the function calculating the value that we want to persist between the re-renders. This function is supposed to be a pure function. In the other hand, the dependencies signifies the list of all values, props, states and variables in the component on change of which the function wrapped with useMemo must run and recalculate the value. When it comes to the return type of the hook, for the initial render, it will calculate the value by running the calculate value function and return it. For any subsequent renders, it will only return the cache value, hence optimizing application performance by removing unnecessary redundant calculations. Okay. So let me dilute this information for you. What happens? Let me consider a real case scenario. You have an application where you are fetching some data and showing it on the UI. Now for example, the API takes some time to fetch the data depending on the arguments you pass. Okay. Now what will happen? For the initial, when the component will mount, that API will be called, it will take some time, it will return the data that you will show on the UI. But for any other case, even if you don't pass any arguments and call that API, but if your component renders, your API will again be called and it will again consume some extra time. And this redundant API calling will actually slow down your React applications. It should not have called the API until and unless the arguments passed to the function which will be in turn passed to the API changes. And this is where we find the best use of useMemo hook. What useMemo hook does, it memoizes the result of your function calling and accepts a dependencies array. Now until and unless your dependencies change, it will return the exact same value every time, even if your component re-renders. It will avoid calling the API and thus consuming some extra time. But in case the value within your dependencies array change, then only the useMemo hook will call the actual function rather than the cached value, which in turn will call the API and fetch the data afresh. Okay. So we have done enough of theory. Let's go to VS Code and understand by an example. So welcome to VS Code. Here you can see a perfect example of the useMemo hook. So basically, a few part of this code should be familiar with you if you have watched our useStateHook video. So let me first explain you the setup which I have done. Firstly, I have imported fc, useState and useMemo from the React library. Okay. Then within our app component, we have set up a local state variable count and an updater method setCount, which are returned by the useStateHook, and the initial value of this count variable is 0. Okay. Finally, within our return method, we show the value of count variable and we have increment and decrement buttons. Just what will happen when we will click on these buttons, the value of this count variable will increase or decrease by 1. And how does that happen? It basically calls the updater method which is provided by the useStateHook to update the count variable. If this useStateHook seems confusing to you, I will request you to watch that video again before coming to this video. Okay. So my motto of setting up a useStateHook extra with useMemo is to force re-rendering of this component. Okay. Now what is extra in this example? we have an expensive function. It will accept a delay which will be of type number, and for that many times this for loop will run for no reason. Basically this is my way of wasting some time before returning some result, because here I am mimicking a scenario where your API might consume a lot of time before returning the result. Okay. Finally, we have a delay variable which I have set as 1 lakh. Here I have set up a local variable username, and here we are calling our expensive function with the delay passed. Here we have wrapped this expensive function using this useMemo and passed the delay variable as a dependency. So what will happen when this application will mount and the UI will render for the first time? This expensive function will be called. It will consume some time and then it will return the result. Okay. Here I have specified 1 lakh. Our loop will run from 0 to 99,999 and finally will return the result. So for the first render, this expensive function will basically take some time and then return the result. But when we will click on increment and decrement button, though our component will update, that is our component will re-render to update the count value and show it on the UI, you will notice this function will not be called. We will here show the cached value from username. But what if we don't wrap it with useMemo? So here also I have commented out an example where we will not use this useMemo hook and see how it deteriorates the performance. So let's run our application and check what we are exactly talking about. So I will go to terminal, new terminal, and I will write npm start to run our React application. Let's wait for some time until our application loads. Finally, we are seeing this value. Basically, the count is set as 0 and we are seeing this name John Doe. Now, if we go to the console, you will see our loop has run 99,999 times. Okay. Now, if we click on increment or decrement button, the value is increasing steadily, and if we click on decrement button, the value is decreasing steadily. It is not taking so much time like the first one. Because when the application will load for the first time, you will see it will consume some good amount of time before it will render. Okay. Even if I click on increment and decrement button, your count variable will get updated, but your John Doe, that is your expensive function, will not be called again, because it caches the value and says until your dependency array has changed, don't call the function again, just use the cache value. Now, just to deteriorate the performance a bit, I will comment out this useMemo and I will call it simply by the way a normal function behaves. Now you will see initially our count is 0 and our value is there, that is John Doe. Now, if I click on increment button, it is not incrementing steadily. It is again calling that expensive function which is running 99,999 times, then getting this value and thereafter updating the DOM with the count value as 1. Now again, if I click on this increment button, you will see before this count value becomes 2, it will run again. So let's see. Our console.log is running again, and once it will hit 99,999, then 1 becomes 2. So this will deteriorate our application performance to a huge extent in a real production grade application. But once we use this useMemo hook, you will see only for the first time it will consume some time. But once the value is there, no matter how many times you increment or decrement the value, it will happen with grace. Okay? Because it will not call the main expensive function again and again. It will just make use of the cache value until and unless our dependency array has changed. So I hope by now the concept of useMemo hook is clear with you. In case you have any doubt, you are always welcome to post your queries in the comment section. Okay. So for now, let's go back to our slide. I hope you found this video informative. In case you like this video, feel free to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We are going to bring more videos in the future. For any queries, doubts, suggestions or feedbacks, feel free to post them in the comment section. We are going to reply. So thank you for now. See you in the next video. Bye.